Huh. Well, this is different. This is
Hi.
fun. Welcome in, everyone. Mike Kadlick, Taylor Kyles here, part of the rowdy, rambunctious, and the revered CLNS Media Network here. I'll explain that in a second, Taylor. Filling in on Pat's interference for our good friend, our colleague here, Andrew Callahan, who is on a much-deserved paternity leave. His wife is back to work, so he is on baby duty ahead of the NFL draft. So we're going to fill in here for a little while for Callahan, or at least today. Take you through a mailbag, take you through some talks about the Marte Mapu trade that happened yesterday. We will get to the Patriots Hall of Fame finalists as well. So a lot to get to here on a guest hosting Patriots Daily / Pat's Interference crossover here on CLNS. So listeners of the Pat's Interference show will know that Andrew always gives an adjective for what CLNS media is, and it goes in alphabetical order. So that's why I had the duty of using R. So I went rowdy, rambunctious, revered. His previous one was Q, so he called it the Quack CLNS Media Network. QRS. So whoever guest hosts next will have to come up with something with the letter S, but we got R today, Taylor. So without further ado, before, you know what I didn't have queued up either, which I'm kind of bummed about, is the Marte Mapu reaction from you. So we unfortunately can't do that.
Oh no!
That on the show. But before we dive into that, what's up, dude? How are you? Welcome into Pat's Interference. No Pat's Daily for us today, but
I'm honored that we got the keys to the beautiful vehicle that is Andrew Callahan's show. Gonna try to do it justice, be informative, give it that Pat's Daily spice. We like to put on all our shows, but again, seriously, it is very cool to be in the driver's seat, or in the passenger seat rather. So let's get this car started. I'm completely out of car metaphors. I don't even have my license yet. So
that's okay. Yes, Taylor is licenseless, and I am out of my element here with our backdrop. But we're gonna make it work, and that's okay. Because the Patriots did make a trade yesterday involving linebacker Marte Mapu. Want to get your thoughts on that, and really now the outlook of the entire linebacker room, because when that first news dropped yesterday that the Patriots had informed Mapu of his release, wheels start to turn a little bit, figuring, okay, this is now a major hole on this roster outside of guys like Spillane and Christian Ellis. Now, they ultimately are able to spin him off to the Houston Texans for a 6th round, 7th round, 2027 pick swap. So, and I wrote this up yesterday for Sports Illustrated, kind of grading the trade, saying that both teams were able to ultimately find value in this, because Patriots were planning on, cutting their losses and saying, okay, the Mapu experiment didn't work, we're going to release him. Instead, they get, something back in some value for him, where Houston now gets somebody who, a tweener player, we've seen him play safety, we've seen him play linebacker, you can do a bunch of different things, bring him into a new system, one of the best defenses in football in Houston, and defensive coordinator Matt Burke can maybe try and get something out of him. So ultimately, in 2026, where we're sitting now, a win-win for both sides. But, I mean, clearly this didn't work how the Patriots wanted to, taking him with the 76th pick, 3rd round. One of Belichick's final sort of dart throws, if you will, a guy from Sacramento State that, again, we joke about the Mapu video, but someone who we weren't too familiar with, besides, again, you knowing that Daniel Jeremiah had him high on his as a sleeper on his board. But he is officially off to Houston. So your thoughts on the Mapu experiment in New England coming to an end, and did they make the right call? And what do you look at, I guess, how do you see this linebacker room now moving forward?
I mean, it was reported that Marte Mapu was cut. So the fact that they got anything out of this, got to move in they went from a 7th to a 6th round pick. So that's a positive. You turn this into something, and it was under a new regime. And we were getting to the point in Marte Mapu's Patriots tenure where they're talking about adding young linebackers. He's already way down on the depth chart, to the point where late in the season, like, you had Chad Muma on the field without Marte Mapu. And there were times they tried to get him involved as like a dime linebacker on occasion, but even still, it just, you saw the playmaking ability, you saw the range, all the potential was there. And like any of these situations, it is disappointing because, like you said, Daniel Jeremiah was really high on him. I got my hands on some tape. Like, you can go back to the first time I talked about Marte Mapu, it was posting clips, and I had written articles and things like that, because he showed an ability to get after the ball. Like, he baited Patrick Mahomes into an interception, and I was always kind of holding on to that, hoping, like, this is what I saw in college. Maybe he'll be more, but it really felt like they put too much on his plate early on. Like in his first game, was he wearing the green dot? Or that was his second season. He came back and wore the green dot. His first season, his first career game against the Dolphins, and I think it was week 2, he lines up in like 5 different positions. And you're thinking, this is very cool on paper, but it looks like this kid is having to handle a lot and the wheels are spinning really fast. And it felt like he really could never get past that stage. There was also the special teams part of it, obviously, where he really was more of a personal protector than anything else and a special teams guy for them. And just, it was disappointing again. But they move on. It's nice that he gets his fresh start. Maybe he can have more of an impact on defense for the Texans. And clearly the Texans play a very similar style of defense to the Patriots, so you can see how that might be able to work for them. And just wish him the best. He also dealt with stingers. I know he was on and off the injury report the past 2 or 3 years with neck injuries. So I hope he's healthy. Hope he finds a role and is really able to kind of have a restart to his career, because he has the talent to be more than just a special teamer. If anything, at worst, he should be a rotational piece. So, best of luck to him. And he was always good to us, at least to me, when I asked him questions and, needed anything from him. So wish him the best.
Now, how much higher do you put linebacker on the draft priority list? I mean, we've talked about and we've broken down on our show on Pat's Daily wide receivers and edge rushers so far. We'll get through to, a position like safety and tight end, which deep classes and positions where you look at the Patriots and, okay, they probably need to take one of these guys in the first half anyway of the draft. Does linebacker bump up that list? Does it pass any of these positions of need, or, kind of how do you see that heading into later this month?
And this is why I didn't know if we should have done like a breaking thing. I'm like, I know for me emotionally this is a big deal, but because I don't think it really does much to affect the depth chart, it just underlines that linebackers a need. Because again, by the end of the season, Marte Mapu wasn't really playing on defense very much. I think honestly, I have to double check one of his last snaps, if not his last snap, might have been at safety. There was one package they used at some point in the playoffs where they had like 4 safeties on the field and he was free. I don't know if it was, but I remember that package. I was like, this is funky. I've never seen them do this before. But yeah, I think they needed a linebacker, period. I definitely feel even more compelled to find some time to watch those guys. I'm still getting through tight ends. Safeties are next. But at this point, you're talking about Robert Spillane and Christian Ellis. I can see KJ Britt filling in that Jack Gibbons role. So at least in terms of that veteran rotation, I still think they could have 3 guys in that mix. But at the same time, you'd like some type of potential green dot replacement for Robert Spillane, whether that's next season or whether it's a couple years from now. So it's very important. And I would say we talked about this in a video we recorded today, previewing wide receivers. But one thing I'll put out there is I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots go the first couple days, maybe the first few rounds, without addressing wide receiver, because you're talking about a room that was crowded last year and basically just swapped Stephon Diggs for Romeo Doubs. So you didn't lose any bodies there. Of course, if A.J. Brown is added to the mix, even if he is, you still need to probably kick somebody out. Like Mike Giardi brought up trading Kayshon Boutte. I think we talked about that as well. That makes a lot of sense. So receiver, I feel like, continues to just get pushed down the list of priorities. I'm okay with adding one, take a flyer on a 5th-round guy or something like that. But you need development at linebacker, at safety, potentially at cornerback as well. I think that's a pretty high priority. So, that's not exactly on the linebacker topic, but I just keep finding it harder to justify getting a wide receiver with all of these needs that you have in development that you need to put together on defense.
And when you think about it through that lens too, back to the linebacker question, it doesn't really necessarily change it Mapu wise, because again, we didn't necessarily expect him to take a ton of steps away anyway. They're going to roll with Ellis, with Spillane, but the depth of the room is obviously much to be desired with guys like Otis Reese, KJ Britt, who you mentioned, and Chad Muma, who was really a special teamer throughout the entirety of the season when he was on the roster. But
Amari Gaynor might also be in that mix. I will say,
right, Gaynor is here as well.
He is one of the most interesting guys that nobody talks about, and for good reason we didn't see him. But he is a tweener. I wonder if maybe they could see him in a Jelani Tavai kind of mold, him or Jesse Luketa. I know he played a little bit off the ball with the Cardinals. So the back of this linebacker room could get interesting when we get to the spring. But again, you need actual developmental depth, not just guys who, maybe we can, spit shine their career a little bit. Like, you need some explosiveness, and you need some guys.
Yeah. So, and again, if wide receiver, they I guess much to be desired in that position group heading into the draft. And when you look at the Patriots room there, maybe they don't go there at 31 or 62. And then linebacker just naturally bumps up that list with, again, these positions we talked about: right tackle, tight end, safety, and things of that nature. So with that, that's the Marte Mapu story. Again, Patriots trading Marte Mapu to the Houston Texans for a 6th, 7th round pick swap in 2027. Wish them all the best. And I really, it's a bummer. I wish we had the Mapu video loaded in here. Unfortunately, we don't. I can't go get it. But the Mapu experiment comes to a tragic end.
Learned a lot that day. I learned a lot after that day.
Yeah. At any rate, the Patriots today also announced their class of 2026 Patriots Hall of Fame finalists, and they are Rob Gronkowski, they are Logan Mankins, and they are Adam Vinatieri. Now, Vinatieri headed to the Pro Football Hall of Fame next year, however, still on this Patriots Hall of Fame ballot, and now Rob Gronkowski comes in the mix, as we know, one of the best tight ends the game's ever seen, one of the best Patriots have ever seen. That's the list. And something interesting I've actually seen from Ethan Hurwitz, who covers the Patriots for Sports Illustrated, is their actually new site editor. And he tweeted this earlier about how the Patriots need to somehow open up this ballot a little bit more and maybe have 2 people come in every year and not just have one player, one contributor, because, and I think I agree with him, there are so many good Patriots from this era, right? And a guy like Adam Vinatieri is going to get kicked down the line again. He's a Pro Football Hall of Famer. He's not going to be a Patriots Hall of Famer because of the list. I would say Gronk is the most deserving, and then
because he's one of the best players, arguably the best player who's ever played his position, which you could also say about Adam Vinatieri.
No, for sure. But then the next year, Devin McCourty comes up, and the year after that, somebody else comes up. They already kicked it because of Brady. He was the next. So like, it's crowded and. Look, I think Gronk is probably the one who gets in here. I think it's unfair to Logan Mankins too, who was one of the best guards of his generation. So,
dude who played an entire season with a torn ACL all the way to the Super Bowl.
Right,
like that is a guy who will never get into the Hall of Fame. But for what he gave you, was the highest paid guard in football. Like he should be in your Hall of Fame. And when you are the Patriots, for other teams, it's one because you might not have that many. And you still need to keep that train going too. Like at some point, Logan Mankins is still probably gonna have to wait a while, and you still got like 6 years worth. So I agree, man. They need more because it's crazy to look at this ballot and think the 2 guys are probably gonna have to wait multiple years before they actually get their chance.
So this is Gronk's first year, should get in. Following year, Devin McCourty, 27, should get in. Matthew Slater then comes up in 2028. He should get in, right? And so, like, and that ain't fair to Adam Vinatieri at all. He should have probably been in the first ballot. He could have got in. And so, who do you think ultimately wins this fan vote? Do you think it's Gronk? Do you think it's Vinatieri? How do you think this goes about? And again, having to choose of the 3, who would you ultimately put in?
I think it's got to be Gronk.
Okay.
Because Gronk also has moments in the Super Bowl that everybody remembers. The KJ Wright touchdown catch against the Seahawks, the Rams at the end where he catches the seam pass. Yep. And obviously there was the one that he didn't get to play in, unfortunately. Also went off against the Eagles in that Super Bowl. Like there's a lot of – I think obviously Adam Vinatieri legitimately won them 2 Super Bowls as well. But then when you get past that, it's like Rob Gronkowski was a more consistent contributor. Again – you could make an argument that he is the best tight end in NFL history. Adam Vinatieri is awesome. I don't know that you can argue that he's the best. Can you?
Best kicker, you're saying?
Yeah. Like I think of like a Sebastian Janikowski in terms of like not even longevity. I think you still give it to Adam Vinatieri now I think about it. That's tough.
I mean, who has like the most points of kickers? That's the other thing. Justin Tucker. Now, off the field, bad news bears. On the field, outstanding. Morton Anderson, I'm looking at some of the other ones.
He is the first. So you could actually, I'm sorry, excuse me. You could make the argument that he is the best. I didn't realize he was ahead by that margin. Excuse my ignorance.
As far as
I'm an advanced stats.
Yeah, all-time leading scorer.
Yeah, he's 2,673. Second place is Morton Anderson with 2,544. So damn, that's insane. That's insane. Obviously positional value, I think it goes to Rob Gronkowski, but Man,
They got to open it up.
And recency bias. I think that also plays a pretty significant factor in this. But I feel like a jerk in making any argument against Adam Vinatieri. He also gave me a fist bump last year when we were in Denver. We were he passed us on the staircase, gave me a fist bump.
That's
so,
right.
Damn, man.
No, but I mean, it
should be a dynasty era for the Hall of Fame, or for like 5 years at least. Let a couple guys in because you're about to have a crazy logjam. And like Adam Vinatieri, what? Like, how old is he going to be? I don't think he'll have to wait that much longer.
No.
Because again, you're talking about a guy who does have a case for the best player ever. Mm-hmm. But then Matthew Slater does as well. McCourty, I think if you're talking about those three guys, McCourty probably would take down the line. Wow.
But he was also McCourty won 3 Super Bowls here. He was a leader of the defense. Like he was a face of the franchise type player. And it's the Patriots Hall of Fame, right? Like it's not.
Yes, that's true. I was going to say that Vinatieri is that for 2 franchises, but that more just adds to the coolness factor than it does for his Patriots Hall of Fame. Obviously, like it literally cuts off right there.
Yeah.
Damn.
I think Gronk gets in.
I guess he cuts into the argument. You could argue, if you really wanted to be a jerk about it, that he played for another your biggest rival of that era. He wasn't the all-time leading scorer for the Patriots.
True.
Like he was not at that point. And I'm saying for in all time.
Oh, okay.
So again, I'm saying for the Patriots Hall of Fame specifically. Right. Like you could argue against Rob Gronkowski because he obviously played for the Buccaneers, but that's such a weird outside their thing. Like the Patriots are lucky they even had him as long as he did because the relationship with Belichick. So
yeah, of course.
Again, I don't think anybody's really going to argue against Gronk.
No.
And I feel like a jerk making any argument against Adam Vinatieri, who's more than deserving. But yeah, the Patriots have an excellent problem, and I think should consider finding some way to get more of these guys in. So players who have already gotten pushed back and will not hear their names probably while they're alive, get more opportunities.
I mean, and maybe maybe it's an idea where like, okay, you only have one player in each year because it's their year and you give them the spotlight. But like they also now have this contributor category where we've seen Scarnecchia go in, we saw Parcells go in. So it's still like a 2-man show at that point where it's not like you can have a full class and you could put 2 players in it. I don't think anybody would have a problem with it, right? Like that.
No, I don't. And would Matt Patricia go in? I think he should.
Put it this way. I think McDaniels absolutely needs to be in, right? And so now granted, he's still coaching, so there's not like the retirement window. Yeah, Patricia could go in.
How many contributors do you think they have? Well, who's the cap expert?
Well, Ernie Adams.
Ernie Adams. Oh yeah, it's crazy. He's not in yet. I didn't even realize that. Who's the cap guy? I'm blanking.
The one that's on them with them right now, Richard Miller.
Yeah, Richard Miller. Richard Miller should 100%.
Yep.
Because they've never really been a team that was in cap hell or anything like that. They've had to reset, obviously.
Yeah.
The thinking of how many contributors they would have is pretty interesting. Because like how many guys stayed on the team for a long time.
Who was that long time special teams coach? Scotty Miller? No,
Scotty Miller is the receiver from the Bucs.
He was before Joe Judge. Patriots special teams coaches. Welcome in, pass interference. Say that again?
Might be before my time.
Yeah, maybe. Special teams coach history. Scotty O'Brien. That's who it was. Okay.
Oh, yes. I've heard.
He was here for from 09 to 14. So he might not even be a Super Bowl champion.
Oh, actually, yeah, I do remember him. Yes, I do. Yeah. Now that I see his face. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of assistants. I mean, you could even go back to Charlie Weiss and Romeo Crennel and those guys. And there's a lot. I think Josh absolutely gets in. Patricia has an argument. Ernie Adams obviously should go in. So there's a lot of guys that'll be interesting to see who they end up selecting in that contributor category moving forward. But again, that's the news. Gronk, Logan Mankins, Adam Vinatieri up for the Patriots Hall of Fame. The 3 finalists, you can vote right now on Patriots.com if you are so inclined to do so, and we will find out who the nominee is later in the offseason. We do have a bunch of mailbag questions. Taylor grabbed some questions on Twitter. They're loaded in here. We're going to do them on Pass Interference this week instead of Pat Daily. Although it's all in the same place here on the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel. So make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to us here. We'll get to those questions in a little bit. But before we do that, I'm going to tell you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks. Because whether it's Pat's Daily, whether it's Pat's Interference, whether it's anything here on the CLNS Media Network, we are powered by Prize Picks, and the playoff push is here. And so our tournament hoops, they're actually just ended, but we still have a ton of professional basketball. And with the new team picks market on Prize Picks, you can now pick game winners, spreads, and totals on top of all of the player picks you already know. So cash in if you're right during all the clutch buckets, slam dunks, and Cinderellas this spring with team picks on Prize Picks. And all you got to do is download Prize Picks today, pick your first game winner, spread, or total as the playoff push rolls on, and you'll get $50 in daily fantasy lineups when you play your first $5 lineup using code CLNS. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 in daily fantasy lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks Predict is a registered FCM offering team picks and culture picks as event contracts. Trading involves significant risks, and offer all the content provided is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice, a recommendation to trade any commodity interest, or an offer to open an account. CLNS is not registered with the CFTC or NFA. Prize Picks Predict does not endorse or guarantee any statements made by third-party promoters or influencers. Please consult with a qualified professional before making any trading decisions. I think I only have to do that once a week for us on Patriots Daily because then it goes in the audio version. However, first one on Pat's Interference. So big disclaimer there on the team picks on Prize Picks. But if you want to get on the action, head over to CLNS, use that code CLNS, and you get $50 in daily fantasy lineups. Before we get to the mailbag, Andrew asked us to do a segment here that I just thought of as I was reading the segment. Give a compliment to a Patriots beat reporter. So I don't know if you've prepared for this. I was thinking about this earlier today on my run. Fellow runner, Boston Globe's Chris Price. Obviously one of the best guys in the industry and on our beat. So shout out Pricey. I will say he's not only a great Patriots writer, but he's also great with career advice. Chris Price has it's called The Price is Right, and it's a Substack, and he writes about more than just the Patriots on there. He does a lot of career stuff. Always posting sports media jobs up that are on LinkedIn and things of that nature, tweets them out. And when I got laid off at EEI a couple years ago, I obviously leaned on a ton of people, CLNS included. They allowed me back. That's why I'm still here. But Pricey was like outstanding with career advice in that moment, telling me, what to do, who to look for, where to go next. He's kept up with me at Sports Illustrated, asking how everything's going, things like that. So I will say, probably a joke segment that Callahan wanted to get going, and we can probably shit on Patriots beat reporters here as well. But Chris Price, A+ Patriots beat reporter, and A+ human. So shout out you. Follow Chris Price over at the Boston Globe.
We are very lucky to be on a beat where a lot of people are very generous with their time and with us. I want to say Mike Reese really badly, but it feels like too much of a slam dunk. Yeah. And I want to recognize somebody who may not get quite as much attention. So I love Mike Reese, what he did when I first got to the beat and continues to do. I'm very grateful for. Of course, everybody knows Mike Reese is an angel that has come and blessed the Boston beat. But I'm going to say Brian Hines because I feel like Brian doesn't get nearly as much attention and love as he deserves. That dude grinds. So as someone who appreciates someone who grinds the tape and everything, I mean, Brian is someone who teaches me a lot all the time. Someone who is on the road a lot, and we bonded in that way. Yeah. And I just respect the grind. He really does put a lot of time in behind the scenes and works his tail off. And I think it's better every year. So I want to shout out, our buddy, Brian Hines. That dude works his ass off and he does some great work.
Pat's Beats Best. Him and Barth, obviously here on the network too. The CLNS Media Network, by the way, loads of talent. Yeah, stacked. The like I said, the rowdy, rambunctious, revered CLNS Media Network, a stacked lineup here for sure. I'll never forget thinking talking about CLNS at the Super Bowl, we have the obviously the radio roast set up, and I was thinking about it in the weeks leading in. I'm like, almost every single person on the page, or a handful of people on the Patriots beat have our podcast through CLNS. So we were just cycling people through, throwing on the headphones, getting the mics going, doing episodes. So that was super cool. So Brian's obviously one of the best as well, and I'm with you. Needs more credit. Needs to get more credit because he does work his ass off, grinds the tape. and all that stuff. So shout out Brian, shout out Chris Price, and shout out Andrew Callahan for making us get all in our feelings about complimenting some of our friends here on the network. But as we continue, we have some mailbag questions. Taylor asked them, so we will get through them right now. And the first one, like clockwork, in terms of draft picks only, how much would you pay for AJ Brown, Taylor?
I think the price for me is going to go down every day.
I agree.
I do not. I don't think I have to stick to one thing. I think I'm allowed to, as I get information, change my take. I know at one point but I was okay with like a first this year. The idea of 2 second-round picks, I was kind of all right with. I just hate the idea of giving up a 2027 pick, to be honest.
Yeah.
And especially not like a 2027 first. That's off the table for me. If we're being realistic and this is a post-June 1st trade, I think that 2027 second and change.
Okay.
And I really don't want to.
That's where I was going. I think the highest is that the second rounder next year and then maybe a fourth. Like, I think that's the highest I would go. I'm not doing the first rounder. A better class.
Fifth. I really don't want to give up that fourth. I go fifth. And if you don't want to, tough cheese. I'm not doing it.
No, that's it. So that's your limit. The second rounder and a fifth. You're not going fourth. Okay.
I feel worse about it we also talked about it earlier, how I feel like receiver isn't that dire of a need. And it's not like you're getting a 26 or 27-year-old who has never had a significant injury, who is years removed. Like, there's a lot of reasons to question it. And, as the picture around this team evolves, I just don't think it's enough of a priority, considering you still have plenty of roster building left to do. And will continue to as you reach a season where a lot of the guys you kind of brought on for Vrabel's first season to reset the culture and all those things are probably going to be out the door next year. So you're hoping to set that groundwork this year and continue building next year. I just don't know how AJ Brown makes you. I don't want to say I don't know how he makes you that much better. Of course, he makes you that much better. Sure. But I still feel like they are a team that is thinking about building towards the future and is not really trying to push in their chips for an AJ Brown. So, yeah, second and a fifth is what I'm comfortable with.
And, I mean, you look at it, too. Again, we just said it, but a stacked 27 class. Brown's a great player. He obviously Vrabel can probably get the most out of him. He's going to help out Drake May in his third year. But how long do you have AJ Brown, right? I mean, the knee is an issue. Like, is it 2 seasons? Is it a season and a half of great ball and then he starts to decline? Like, the
is 2 years worth it? Is 2 years worth a second round pick?
Like, I don't know. In this class, it might be, it might not. Like, it's a tough decision. And a player who is a big-bodied receiver, like, we've seen them not age very well. You talk about guys like Julio Jones. DeAndre Hopkins even is playing okay football still, but he kind of fell off a cliff. Andre Johnson.
Don't tell him that. He sees the tweets. He knows what people say about him. So
that's fair. Sorry, D-Hop. Well, hey, he never came our way. Yeah. Anyway, but we're in a new environment, Taylor. I don't know what Pat's appearance is, but no, actually, on the Hall of Fame topic, good one in the chat here. What about Nancy Meyer, who just retired after 45 years?
Yes.
Get Nancy in the Pats Hall of Fame.
She was someone else I was thinking of. Absolutely. I met her actually at the Combine. She is a lovely woman. I just all praise to the queen. She's fantastic. And she is revered in the organization and someone who is regularly is acknowledged and thanked publicly, probably not as much as she deserves, but absolutely. I think when you talk about contributors, I can see her being there in the next 3 to 5 years.
That'd be pretty cool. And someone who has been through multiple regime changes in New England. And there's so much BS for lack of a better term, that goes into draft visits and 30 visits and travel and getting guys in and having yeah, right. Exactly. Elliot mentioned the storm and family accommodations for different things. And she's been a rock star for them for however long. So shout out Nancy Meyer. And I think that, you're right. And it's a good point. Good comment from Jeff Dockett is the name. Jeff Dockett 988. I think she definitely deserves it and has been a background contributor for the franchise who has done great work for them. So
that's what the award's for. Recognition of the people that deserve it, but don't always get it.
So On the Mapu discussion, I know we talked about him a little bit, but do you think now you could see them taking a linebacker in the first 2 rounds, pick 32, pick 63? Does that entice you, or do you think it's still those 2 picks are ones that they should maybe use on different positions?
I just think and best player available is a thing. I will always leave the caveat. If there's a player you have high on your board, take him. Because I also subscribe to the idea of think about 2 or 3 years down the road. Mm-hmm. If one guy is flirting with being a Pro Bowler and another guy fills the position you needed, but he's average, do you really feel good about that? Right? That's what veterans are for. And they can't always get them, especially, at some of the positions we're talking about. But you can find a linebacker. If you desperately need a linebacker next year, I think you can find one, which is why I would. And plus, who are their linebackers right now? What highly drafted linebacker is on their roster?
Right,
they're
exactly.
Spillane, who had a hard time sticking to an NFL team. Respectfully, he's talked about his journey. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
And Christian Ellis, who also is a guy who's been fighting for a roster spot. They were just in the Super Bowl. So again, and I don't always love to say they were just in the Super Bowl because I think it's very unfair. It's a team game. A lot of things happening around them. But even with Jack Gibbons and Jelani Tavai, it's not like you were dealing with a bunch of blue chip players.
Right.
So I think if there's a guy they love, and I love linebackers, I think if you really like a guy that much and you can look at a linebacker and say he should have been a 1st or 2nd round pick and you can justify it, hell yeah. Because those guys have a massive impact on the game. They're in the middle of the defense. But I just think when you talk about right tackle, edge defender, tight end, safety, I think linebacker is in the same realm as safety and tight end, to be fair. And I think that's where best player available does play a factor. First 2 rounds, though, that's too rich for me, because what are you getting if you wait on edge and tackle? The pickings aren't great if you wait.
So what about a guy like Jacob Rodriguez, who at G McJenkins asks, linebacker looking like surefire ad. Why wouldn't Jacob Rodriguez be available in the 2nd, which again is pick 60 and change, 63, I think they have. So look, I'm looking at mock draft database right now. His consensus ranking is 45, and it's only grown since, the college football playoff and things like that. Great player at Texas Tech. They'd probably have to trade up for him. And I wonder if again, they do have they have a lot of capital in the back half of the draft and 5, 6, and 7th round picks, 4, 5, 6, 7, really. But I wonder if he'll be there at 63, and I don't know if I'd love trading up for him, to be frank.
I don't. He's such a difference maker. And I never said I wouldn't feel very compelled to draft some of these guys. I absolutely would. If we're I just said I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do it.
Can't.
Okay, let me play along because just saying no is not fun, right? Let me think of a scenario. So if they got Ihanichor or a tackle they liked with their first pick, and then the next thing they needed to address was edge. Again, I really don't like what we're talking if we're looking at edge defenders at the bottom of the 3rd round. In terms of you need a developmental guy who could potentially take over or at least be a quality role player, you might really be scraping the barrel there. Whereas for linebacker and safety, that's another part of this. And I think the depth at safety and linebacker it's really throughout the mid-round. Really, yeah. It's deep throughout. I think you can find somebody you like. And I think safety is a similar story, especially it's not a premium position where they're probably going to fly off the board, like offensive tackle, like edge. Those are spots where you're going to get 3 to 5 pick gluts of oh shit. Everybody's just trying to get the best guy they can. If there was some scenario where you had multiple mid-round picks, multiple thirds, maybe you were earlier in the 3rd round, then I would consider a Jacob Rodriguez. Because I'm all right, we're in enough of an area where we can maybe move around the board and get who we want. Because again, I think he's a difference maker, and I don't care what position they play. If you're a guy who's going to force fumbles, get picks, be disruptive, get tackles in the backfield, get sacks, I want you on my defense. I don't care if you're a safety. I don't care if you're a corner, whatever you are. You can play for me, and I'll put up with you giving up an explosive here and there because you're creating turnovers. I'll play that game.
Sure.
But again, it's so tough when you think about edge and tackle. And I will even say, looking at the Beast, which dropped today, check it out. Dane Brugler, as always, did a fantastic job. It does seem like there are at least swing tackle options that could grow into either Mike Nwenu or Morgan Moses replacements. And I also want to acknowledge, like, look, they just drafted a tackle and started him year one. You might have the opportunity to find a right tackle that you can start right out of the box. It just isn't really ideal, and you'd like to be able to develop that guy. So I'm trying to leave the door open because I like impact players, and those are the guys where I'm like, you know what? If you take a swing, like Travion Henderson, perfect example.
Totally.
Back in the second with when you need a receiver, running back who can hit home runs and does, that's a different story. I could play with that. And Jacob Rodriguez is, I think, in a similar vein.
And that brings us a good segue into this next question from @HypnoticGoop. Great Twitter name. Always love seeing the Hypnotic Goop in the mentions. Why are some national draft analysts projecting players for the Patriots who don't fill an immediate need? I think the answer to the question is we talked about it with guys like Schrager and Pelissero. It's what they're hearing around the league, and they determine who's going to fall where and who the Patriots might go after. But it's also a best player available scenario, especially at pick 31, where wide receiver, edge defender, really those two main ones are what I think Patriots fans are looking for in the first round. But the Denzel Bostons, the Omar Cooper Jr.'s, the Casey Concepciones, even guys like TJ Parker, and obviously the guys at the front of the draft and Arvell Reese, like those guys are all going to be gone. And the next tier might be reaches at 31. So instead, these analysts are just going, okay, this is the best player available. Patriots make it work this way. Again, we've seen the Caden McDonald's. We've seen the interior offensive lineman yesterday from Georgia Tech, who Schrager mocked to them. I can't think of his name. But I think it
Rutledge? Keelan Rutledge?
Maybe.
Wait, I think that's a Georgia guy. Oh, my God. No, I'm right. Keelan Rutledge.
It is Rutledge? Okay. But regardless, we've seen, again, guard with Mike Onwenu could be a little bit of a question mark. Jared Wilson's going to move to center. You have Elijah Vera Tucker, who, when healthy, is great, but might not be. So, I mean, guard is sneaky. Interior line, always a need. But I think ultimately, when you look at some of these, it ultimately becomes best player available in that situation.
Sure, but if you're going to do that, I think, and I understand these are blurbs, and I don't want to hold these guys to the standard of like, why didn't you talk about all the roster? Like, that's not what this is.
Right.
But like, and I heard the cases on Caden McDonald, for example. Mm-hmm. But if positional value matters, and to show it, we can talk in extremes. Are you drafting a punter in the first round? If he is going to be a Pro Bowl punter every year, are you drafting him in the first round?
Nope.
Neither is every other team, right?
Right.
So you are willing to acknowledge that at some point, positional value does play a factor.
Of course.
If you are talking about a player, and I understand the value of this player as well, a 2-down nose tackle, which is a position that typically you do cycle through. And on this defense, even Milton Williams isn't playing every down when the depth is where they want it to be.
Right.
Tackle, you could make an argument that like that guy, even if he's just an eligible tight end, he's only playing like maybe 10 snaps for you a game. And it's like, sure, but you're also one injury away from potential disaster at a very important position that's very hard to replace. So for those reasons, you know, I just don't think it makes a lot of sense to get a nose tackle specifically. A 2-down player, I just don't think that's easy to justify with what they still do need. Guard, I get it. I think there's a better case to be made because, yes, Ben Brown and Vidarian Lowe were similar levels of player to me. I think Vidarian was actually better. And, like, if Vidarian was still here and could play right tackle, I probably wouldn't think it was as much of a need as I currently do.
Right.
But you can upgrade over Ben Brown with a rookie. Like, ideally, you draft somebody who's like with Jared Wilson. It is literally the exact same situation, and he was a below-average starter. So I understand why guard is a pick. But I don't think people understand how important edge is. And in some of these mocks, also Blake Miller and Ihanachour have already been taken. So there's that to be taken into account. But like if Ihanachour is not in your first round and you have the Patriots taking a nose tackle or a guard, like, come on. You can't tell me that those players are better because like Ihanachour has a higher ceiling. Blake Miller, I get the argument a little bit more. But yeah, I don't want to I don't want to be rude because a lot of them are going off what they hear. And we are also beat reporters, so we have a certain level of knowledge, and not everyone does. But yeah, I still think the Caden McDonald thing is weird. And even if you think he looks like Vince Wilfork, I don't personally understand it. I think it's really odd.
This one's a fun one. I don't know if you have any off the top of your head, but any draft prospects this year who have the most badass name in your opinion?
There was one that I found the other day. I wish I had written it down or put it in the group chat.
I will say, just for in general, named in sports as you think, Zach Cox of the Boston Herald, covers the Celtics now, was on the Patriots beat for Nesson for a while. Always does like an all-name team for like whatever big events, like March Madness. He grabbed like all the funkiest, coolest names from like the March Madness tournament. It's hilarious. So Zach's always on top of these. What's the Gums kid? Greg Gums?
Greg Gums. Yeah.
Greg Gums is a tackle, offensive lineman. That's more of a funny name, not so much badass.
I'm speeding through right now to see if I can find it again. I will say, was it KC Concepcion is a pretty slick name.
Yeah, it is.
That's a good one.
I'm scrolling through as well.
Throw them in the chat if you got them.
Anyone in the chat?
Ephesians Prysock. I know Jake Ephesians. Slaughter. It's not a book in the Bible. Jake Slaughter's badass. That's awesome. Yeah, Jake Slaughter.
Gabe Akis, Kick Akis. That's what
Kick Akis. It spreads.
Yep.
Let's go.
D'Angelo Pons is an interesting name.
D'Angelo Pons is, it's George Gums. I just got to him.
George Gums, okay. Jennings Dunker.
Jennings Dunker is great.
Dominique Orange.
Big Citrus. I need to watch. Yeah. I'm excited to watch him too. Hezekiah Masses. He sounds like a preacher.
There's a lot of
usually names. I feel like all the coolest names are in the back of the draft.
Yeah, definitely.
We're not going to do this for too much longer. I just want to see if anything sticks out. Is like it's at the bottom of the beast.
Nope, that's fine. I'm good with it. This is our show. This is not Callahan's show. We're allowed to do whatever we want now.
I am the captain now.
Exactly.
I think I'm good. I'm not getting any.
All right. Well, there's a good amount there.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, I think Jake Slaughter is a pretty good one. Dante Corleone, KC, like you said, is a good one. So, all right. Anyway,
Slaughter wins. Any linebacker with a name that implies violence is usually good with me.
Yeah. All right. Couple more before we bounce. Do you see a downside giving up draft capital in this year's draft, moving up in the first round to go get one of these star players? I phrased it this way because there is 100% downside to give up capital next year because it's a loaded class that everyone thinks is great. You have a lot of 5th and 6th round picks. I don't know if that's enough to move up in the first round, but you immediately shook your head yes. So what's the downside to going to try and trade up for one of these guys?
I just don't think anyone is worth you giving up, a 3rd round pick?
3rd or 4th maybe, yeah.
Like you're already in the back half, and I really think that positioning is going to matter. Yeah, man. Unless somebody's willing to bite on the 4th, which I don't think is. Again, I don't feel like doing the math. I'm not a math guy.
No, I'm with you. And it also depends on how who falls, where they fall, and if you're moving up from 31 to 27, like it's not going to be that pricey. Where if it's 31 to 16, 17, it's going to cost you a hell of a lot more. So.
Right, like Kenyon Sadiq is not a premium position, frankly, and even in this offense, I would argue an elite tight end could be, but I also think I don't see him being in their range. Like T.J. Parker and Omar Cooper, I could see being in their range, but I wouldn't trade up for them. I just think that this is a year where like you get your guy with your first pick that you think is going to grow into being like a pillar of the franchise, and next year is when you knock it out of the park at edge rusher, receiver, if you have to at tackle. Like I just, if you're talking about a loaded class, you're going to be able to get a receiver in the 2nd round. If there's a bunch of like this year, like I've said, I think it's weird because there's so many guys who have profiles where like there's something about it that's a glaring issue versus others where it's like, yeah, he may not be great at this, but he's really good at some other stuff. Other guys just inconsistent. There's things I haven't seen on tape. I haven't seen next year's class, so I'm just going based on what people say. And I feel like this is always what people say, that next year is going to be better. But people are talking about So if it's that talented, there's always receivers in drafts. So I think you can wait 1 year while you still have a pretty packed room.
All right, last one before we hand over the Pats interference reins to the next guest host. Has to do with Pop Douglas. G. McJenkins asked, what's next for Pop? 2 preseasons and training camps in a row where he looks uncomfortable, but then stumbles during the season and after the catch.
Well done, McJenkins. Well
done. That. Mike Vrabel spoke a couple weeks ago, mentioned Pop Douglas unprompted as someone who he's looking forward to kind of see grow. What's your take on Pop? Is he long for this Patriots world? Obviously heading into the final year of his contract. What does he have to do to earn not only playing time, but maybe even the right to a second contract in New England?
I think we've seen what he is, to be honest.
Okay.
I think the fact that Drake is not more willing to throw to him in games, and granted, Drake had issues seeing the field at times last year. And there were a lot of times where Pop was open and he didn't get the ball. So I don't want to pretend like, oh, Pop's never open. Pop is open a lot. Against man coverage, like you've said, he's uncoverable in the regular season. If you watch him against man, very rarely will you see like 3 snaps in a game where a guy is comfortably covering Pop. So I think he's a good player, but I just like when we talked about Pop and Josh Downs, the comparisons are very obvious. But the more you watch, the more you realize that I think it's like 1.5 inches, 2 inches difference between the two. I think it is significant. And I also think that Downs and Drake had such a quick rapport. Like it was his first year starting and Downs was like his go-to guy. Whereas Pop has never been that. And we're now on our second season. Like, of course they could always grow. Receivers, it's not uncommon for them to bloom late in their careers. But I don't know, man. And like he has to fight off Ethan Chisholm as well, who I just think is a more consistent player and a bit more physical. You can use him as a blocker, which also Pop just isn't a very good blocker. And that limits how much you can use him. And after the catch, he'll get you some chunk plays, but he doesn't really have that gear to pull away. It just, and even I'll say Hayden Winks of Underdog Fantasy, does a really great job. They were breaking down some prospect. I think it was Skylar Bell. And he was mentioning how that vertical slot role just isn't super important. And we saw that like against a lot of those split field looks. Pop got the one against the Saints where he beat single high coverage and they tried it again against the Titans. I don't think it worked. And we never really saw the play again. Like we saw the seam throw against the Bengals, but that was a different thing. Right. And even in the playoffs against the Broncos, you saw the limited size impacted Pop's ability to catch one of those downfield targets down the sideline. So I just think what he does is hard in an offensive ecosystem where defenses are trying to stop the pass first and they're susceptible to the run. And we know the Patriots want to be a team that can run the ball until you say uncle. So yeah, I really like Pop and I hope that maybe he gets traded in a Marte Mapu situation where he goes to a good situation and they can get a little something back. But
yeah,
I also think that Vrabel understands. And one, Pop does need to show something. So I don't think he was BSing. I don't think it was just for trade and value, but also I think that has something to do with it, you know? So.
No, it's fair thought. Liked Pop coming in, thought there was going to be more to him as a player, and it just hasn't really popped, if you will. I think the size has a lot to do with it. His best year was Drake's rookie season, but that was kind of a lost campaign here in New England anyway. And yeah, I just think maybe there's another gear, but we haven't seen it yet, so I don't know how you can necessarily
consistency. If we're being honest, like consistency, I think is the issue. We're in camp. You talk about he's doing well. We also talked about how he was dropping some passes, and we were like there's some that he's not hauling in that he probably should. And again, the yak where you are falling, like so much that it's like actually a running joke. It happened like 3 or 4 times where he had grass, and it's like this is what you do. Like the limited targets, you got to make the most. And I just came away feeling like he didn't always. He feels like Jonnu to me. It's very Jonnu-like. Yeah. Where he's good in spurts, and you see why people like him. And I think he's better than Jonnu, to be respectful.
I think Jonnu's an extreme example, but I get your point.
Right. Just too many times, it's like it looks a little awkward. And you're a good player, and I don't know why it's happening like this. So, yeah, that's the last thing I got to say.
I'll never forget the Jonnu play against the Saints when he just popped the ball up and got intercepted. And that
was once my agenda was like, I'm off this guy. This is crazy. Because he'd done it the week before, I think, too, and he caught it.
Yeah. Yep. That was I think that was the game where Bill had to walk Mac off the field because he was so pissed off against the Saints. That was what a time.
That was a way bigger red flag than I thought at the time.
Yeah,
I was like hoping. At the time, you're like, oh, he just cares. It's like you also don't want your corner. Like, imagine if that happened with Drake.
Yeah, right.
He
Exactly.
was so mad they had to pull him off the field. You'd be like, whoa, what just happened? So,
Yeah.
different people, though, not the same.
Different people, different
Different
people, different regime. And with that, we're closing out a different show because this is not Patriots Daily. It's Pats Interference. And that is going to do it for us here. Thank you, Andrew Callahan, for asking us to join the program, to fill in for you. Hopefully did it admirably. I know there are a handful of other guest hosts lined up for Callahan, so make sure, as always, rate, review, subscribe to Patriots Press Pass, but check out Pat's Interference as well. One of the many podcasts here on the Rowdy, Rambunctious, and Revered CLNS Media Network. We will have plenty of Pat Daily coverage.
Yeah, you should incorporate.
Yes. Plenty of coverage here lined up on Pat's Daily, as well as Press Pass as the draft nears. So I will close it out with our signature Patriots Daily tagline to, as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you all soon. Peace out, everyone.